Who's on the t-shirt?
This is Cosmo and Wanda from the Fairly Oddparents.
Okay. You can't be wearing these.
After a few years off the air, The Fairly Oddparents is back with the brand new main character. After a few years off the air, The Fairly Oddparents is back with the brand new main character. A New Wish is technically only the second reboot, but for over 15 years, the series has tried to revitalize itself by adding protagonists or stunts, like the live-action movies that brought in strong ratings but weren't well received by fans. I think this era had its ups and downs. Like, there's good episodes or positives to be found in all of these recent projects if you look hard enough, and occasionally get desperate. It's completely normal to find the snooty rich kid Nate Bugsaplenty from Fairly Odder funny because he reminds you of your favorite Mr. Show sketch where Bob Odenkirk is reincarnated as the Dalai Lama, leading Tibetan monks in a summer Olympiad against the rich snobs from the Fat Kids camp.
William Van Landingham!
The third, my dear boy.
This is how Terrific Tariq writes me whenever we collab.
Yo, Dolly G! What up, nigga?
With the announcement of a fully animated kids CG reboot coming only 2 years after the last attempt, fans were understandably skeptical. But just because it hasn't worked before doesn't mean that a new take on Pop is a terrible idea. Exploring what wishes other kids would make if Cosmo and Wanda were their fairy godparents is an obvious but intriguing foundation for fresh stories. Yet, whenever this has been tried in the past, it's always been tethered to the original main character, Timmy Turner.
This isn't so weird.
What's exciting about A New Wish is that it seems mindful of what didn't work about newer iterations of this franchise while delivering a Fairly Oddparents that feels modern. Though I'm a bit worried it may be too modern.
Cosmo, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Without spoiling too much, the series follows Hazel Wells and her parents Angela and Marcus as they move to the big city of Dimadelphia due to her father's new job. With her best friend and brother Anthony having left for college, Hazel is now alone and miserable as she adjusts to attending Dimadelphia Enrichment Academy, where she's bullied by Dev Dimmadome, the son of a tech mogul. Then there's the girl's new neighbors, a strange retired couple.
Hi there, I'm Cosmo!
I'm Wanda.
And we're...
Your next door neighbors!
They turn out to be magical fairies disguised as humans who take pity on Hazel and take her in as their fairy godchild, even though it goes against the rules. Due to what it's succeeding, the premise raises the question of if Hazel is deserving of fairies, considering that they're only given to the most miserable children on Earth. Cosmo and Wanda's previous new god kids struggled after moving to Dimsdale, but Chloe Carmichael from season 10 and Viv Turner from Fairly Odder were immediately accepted, or had a sibling to support them. Neither was abused or neglected to the extent that Timmy was, and I don't think Hazel needed to be. Whether or not you think she's truly miserable, this kid has no one who understands her. She's the most realistic protagonist in this franchise yet, fitting of this reboot's slightly more grounded tone. Hazel sings to herself, she has imaginary friends, and even getting fairies can't fix her crippling social anxiety at school. Unfortunately, I doubt any child who spent multiple years in remote schooling will relate to this on any level. The issues Hazel faces are more internal than Timmy's, like some of her wishes go wrong because she can't quite articulate her wants or perceives herself to be more mature than she actually is, complicating the magic math behind the wish.
What? The equation has a series of complex variables!
As a result, we get episodes with slightly smaller stakes and lower energy compared to what I'm used to with this franchise. This might be partially due to a few cases where there's no reason given for why a wish can't just be unwished. Hazel also needs to keep Cosmo and Wanda secret, but so far, that's only been a direct concern once or twice. I found myself comparing an episode like Weird Science, where Hazel navigates her random and chaotic school after the fairies rewrite science to make her science fair project work, to What's the Difference, where the random and chaotic school Timmy navigates is pulled directly from a children's Look and Find book, in which everything is where you least suspect.
Hey Timmy, does something seem slightly weird about the school to you? As though it were designed by 3-year-olds?
Nope, not at all.
You still got silly gags, but it all ties back to this one core idea that propels the entire narrative. Instead of the wish causes it to rain potatoes because there needs to be a lot of potatoes to save the day. On the plus side, the conflicts of the new series feel very specific, like in Mystery She Wished. The stylish monochrome world can't go back to normal until Hazel solves the mystery behind her new neighbors, which expands the cast and frames the whodunit around the girl's limited perspective.
Suspects.
Gross!
Bless you!
Again, you can draw parallels to a classic episode, but this new one feels slightly more interested in exploring its characters rather than just telling jokes, with lots of moving parts that demand your attention, just like the brand new interactive section I've decided to add to my videos. If you have ad block on, hit pause, turn it off, and then keep watching. Done? Okay, here's an ad break. I'm kind of fascinated by how A New Wish takes on the theme of parenting. With Hazel's mom and dad, Angela treats her daughter like an adult, and Marcus easily gets caught up in studying the unexplained and unnatural. He's like a more scientifically driven Crocker, with similar glasses and spindly fingers. Both are casually neglectful and often distracted by their work, not noticing when their kid is trying to run away from home, or finding their own reasons to brush Hazel aside when she's trying to grab their attention.
You've been very mature about the move. You know what? I put you at a level 9 on the Be Well scale of self-actualization.
That's me, level 9 maturity girl.
Although Hazel's genuine and curious demeanor clashes with the sarcastic and impatient Timmy, both are powerless and patronized by adults in magic and human worlds. The new girl goes up against Fairy Commander Jorgen von Strangle, who's aged like his inspiration but remains tough as nails, and Principal Krentz, a demanding administrator.
I'll be going from class to class giving the same announcement. I suppose I could use the intercom, but then I wouldn't be able to see the looks of distress on your tiny faces, which is the best part of my job.
Fairly Odder also kinda did this, but I'm once again happy to see the fairies characterized as a loving couple that are both out of practice with their magic.
A magazine for retirees!
That's us!
It's so refreshing to watch a version of this show where no one is defined by their stupidity after years of that trait being cranked up to 11.
There's always my tearjerker idea, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles!
Cosmo, who cries watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Who doesn't?
Oh, random pop culture name drops. How I've missed you so.
I am Yogi Bear, and I am smarter than the average bear.
Cosmo and Wanda also put the parent in Godparent when their wish-granting abilities are tested to see if they're a good fit for Hazel. If they fail, Jorgen threatens to replace the fairy pair with Cookie, a diva who poofs up wishes in a flash but ignores the wants of her child.
I'm Cookie. Oh, kids love cookies.
The way a fairy grants wishes is equivalent to a parenting style, which has always kind of been the case, but I like how that idea is brought to the forefront.
All day you've been saying Cosmo, Wanda, and I failed, but you were putting too much pressure on me. I'd rather get my messy wish than a cookie cutter wish I didn't even ask for.
The original Fairly OddParents was a major player in the trend of child empowerment and wish fulfillment that ruled kids media in the late 90s and early 2000s, especially on Nickelodeon. You still see it today in shows like Craig of the Creek, where outdoor fantasies are turned into larger-than-life adventures. But this framework is used to explore themes of responsibility or identity, and the adults are typically more supportive than antagonistic. Similarly, Infinity Train used high-concept sci-fi scenarios to show kids dealing with divorce or the loss of a loved one, and it had a kid named Hazel. So it makes sense that two of this reboot's showrunners, Ashley Crystal Hairston, who also voices the new lead, and Lindsey Katai, came from both series. Hazel losing her only friend and sibling is taken seriously, and so are the healthy relationships she has with her teachers. Unlike Timmy, Hazel has to pay attention to what her parents are up to, and that includes actually knowing what their jobs are, as it could affect her later down the line.
How have I not heard of this before?
Hazelnut, you made it!
In the vein of Infinity Train, there's a bit of horror influence that Fought rarely has outside of Halloween, trickling into stories about facing fears in real life or putting zombies. I've already spotted nods to The Shining's Overlook Hotel carpet, and I think Twin Peaks? Oh, and speaking of showrunners, Butch Hartman is credited as an executive producer alongside Fred Seibert, but they only oversaw scripts and animatics and were very hands-off. Yippee! Oh my god. Oh, I can't do it that loud. This reboot is the first time the Fairly OddParents has been completely animated in CGI, and it was able to avoid visual comparisons to prior TV incarnations by having the characters be shot and move like they exist in a flat 2D space. The lighting and depth take advantage of the extra dimension, adding atmosphere. There's no need to worry about the very flat designs looking unappealing in 3D, or not being meant to be seen at a certain angle.
Why is everything so bulgy?
Everyone would probably complain about the animation looking slightly different if they did go 2D, myself included, so I prefer this unique approach. It's like if these recent renders were given life. Showrunner Daniel Abramovici and animation director Trevor Young are both Blue Sky vets that have worked on the Peanuts movie, and you can see that experience on screen. Dublin-based studio Giant Animation animated on 4s and included smears, multiples, and snappy expressive poses to mimic traditional animation and fight the smooth look that CG is built to execute.
Hazel!
You'll hear more about Giants in animation in a video next month. The animation team spoke about how limited their resources were for a show with unlimited storytelling possibilities. I picked up on this during the episode that mostly took place in a parking lot with obstacles being poofed in, but it was about a fairy DMV, so that limitation fit the plot. Cosmo and Wanda's human forms mean that there's less disguises to design, but these versions of them open up potential for new stories. Even when their faces are slapped onto objects as they were in previous asset-based projects, the designs are polished enough that can be overlooked. While these semi-realistic textures reminded me of this fan art monstrosity, I like that they added just enough extra detail without it being distracting. The irises added to characters like Jorgen were a small exception, but I get they wanted to create a consistent eye design.
Tiny girl, wish now!
Now, every kid and fairy wears shoes, the wands have handles, and Wanda got a wardrobe upgrade with a ribbon tie blouse. I had to look up what this is called, cause my average outfit is basically this.
Yeah!
Looking at concept art by character designer Chris Battle, it's impressive how little energy or detail was lost in the transition from 2 to 3D. The classic art style returns whenever something is printed, written, or illustrated. Patrick Morgan served as the art director, which explains why some elements reminded me of the painted stills and title cards of Fanboy and Chum Chum, the first of many CG shows at Nickelodeon where he served as a designer. I do miss the ending cards, and the varied line width on these is a little off, but at least we actually got title cards instead of those on-screen credits that distract from whatever's happening in the background. These drawings are even used to elaborate on how Cosmo and Wanda spent the past non-linear 10,000 years during their retirement from godparenting.
Traveling the world through space and time.
Exploring the wonders of ancient Rome before it collapsed.
Hobnobbing with aristocracy in 18th century France.
Hey, why is Hazel rocking the Frisk Undertale fit anyway? This brings us to the supporting cast. All of Hazel's classmates are identified by Dev in the pilot, and while they haven't had many appearances, the traits he points out come off like the show is desperately trying to feel modern. You got a skater with colored hair, an ASMR YouTuber, a LaCroix knockoff spokesperson, and all of this comes in quick succession after a double dose of drone humor. That's how you know it's the present day in a cartoon reboot. Fortunately, we've already had a few moments signifying that these kids will grow into fully fleshed out characters over time, even the potato-shaped ones that look like they were plucked from Bunsen as a Beast.
Please be careful with Bartholomew.
There's even a slow build-up, with Hazel becoming acquainted with Wynn and Jasmine over multiple stories. As friends, they're far more supportive than Chester and AJ, demonstrating how this reboot isn't as cynical, but it's not toothless. See Cosmo and Wanda's verse during a surprisingly good-looking and sounding musical number about New York City.
Bodega rat and pizza cat, baseball fan and Wall Street band, sewer vent and mystery zen. Good one.
Another small concern I have is over the fan reaction to a character credited as Bus Driver, designed after the adult Timmy wished up in The Big Problem. There's a narrative going around that this was supposed to be Timmy and that Lindsey Katai went back on this claim due to fan backlash, and I don't think that's true. This is one of multiple Easter eggs in the show about a character who looks like Timmy but isn't, and it's already been confirmed that Timmy won't officially return this season.
We have a mascot? Was some kind of squirrel? I don't know.
I've already run out of footage to use for these cameos, so they don't really feel like pandering. I appreciate the sneakier callbacks too, like the mention of Doug Dimmadome's briefly seen son, Dale Dimmadome, or that the city name of Dimmadelphia comes from the cable station Timmy's parents travel to in Channel Chasers. It'd be cool if these references get paid off later. Same goes with the poof portrait inside Cosmo and Wanda's apartment, but I'm not looking forward to seeing posts asking, oh, where's this character? When's this character coming back? I can't go through that again. One slight retcon I like is that Father Time was completely revamped since his one other appearance, but it gives the series room to introduce new magic characters, like his boss, the Nick of Time.
I should have known you'd butt in, Nick.
As alluded to before, I think taking Timmy out of the picture, at least for the time being, was the right move to help this reboot stick out, and Hazel herself has proven to have her own strengths and weaknesses.
Hey Hazel, you ready for those board games?
Fortunately, this was the sole cause of backlash and not any internalized racism over a white protagonist being replaced with a black one. Time to conclude my video about the fairly woke parents, a new pronoun. I always feel a little guilt whenever I prop up a reboot or a revival, when I'd much prefer the creatives use their talents to bring original ideas to life instead. But I think it's worth giving props to the ones that do it right, the ones that stand on their own while recapturing what made their inspiration so appealing. It helps that while this was in the works, Fairly Odder explored some of the same concepts, just on much more of a surface sitcom level. It lowered my expectations, so I'm used to Cosmo's voice being permanently high-pitched or the music keeping the big band jazz vibe but not scoring every movement with recycled cues. I've seen a whole episode about TikTok dances, so who cares if Jorgen briefly dabs? At the time of writing, Nickelodeon has only aired about as many episodes as season 1 of the classic series. It's hard to compare the two 6-episode runs because I know what one of them was building to, and it's lived in my brain for over a decade. I think the reboot has a better premiere and more fleshed out protagonist, but its limited CG can't compete with the inventive worlds Timmy wished up, and the supporting cast got more moments to shine.
Are you ready for your anniversary present?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Open your eyes.
It's a blindfold!
I think the legacy of the successor will be partially based on how long it lasts. It won't be remembered unless today's kids have a few years to get attached to their version of this show. If it doesn't get renewed, then I'll see you in a few years to talk about the podcast reboot. Instead of seeing them, you can imagine what the wishes look like in your head. I'm interested to see how the serialized episodes will play out, or, more pressingly, if they'll fix how much louder the vocals spoken by characters are in the otherwise stellar reimagined theme song.
Wands and wings! Floaty crowly things!
While it will land on Netflix internationally, I hope it becomes available in the States soon, so I can legally stream it on something that isn't my DVR. Currently, I've gotten more out of analyzing the Fairly OddParents A New Wish compared to laughs, but I'm digging its grounded take on this escapist fantasy.
I'm Cosmo!
And I'm Wanda! And we're...
My fairy godparents!
Now that I think about it, I kinda wish I could know what I'd look like with the show's slightly realistic textures.